So this live is not going to be very long because there's not much else to say. Bizan in Gaza has given her last message. We hope that's not true. This is a woman who won an Emmy Award for her journalism and her courage. And they've surrounded 1.7 million Palestinians and have made sure that many of them are starving to death. Hunger, lack of water, basically a shooting barrel. And we live in a time where we're repeating the mistakes that we saw on other planets. And we saw genocide in other planets. There was a lot of galactic wars and the annihilation and the enslavement of people, or I'm going to say sentient beings, right? Not people, sentient beings. Let me correct myself. 1.7 million people being surrounded, famine being used, very much like what they did to the Irish when Queen Victoria refused to let the Irish eat. Forced famine. Not famine because there's no rain, because the crops have failed. Forced famine. There can't be anything worse than a government being that pure evil. You see, and so this is not the first time this has happened. They've learned from past leaders, toxic, narcissistic, psychopathic, sick fucks before. And they're doing it again. And what can you do? What can I do? The only thing you can do and I can do is hold sacred space for these souls that are losing their lives minute by minute. And the grief that is surrounding this camp. Just on a side note, could be a lie, but I don't give a shit because so far everything that this country is not real has done, most of it has unfortunately been factual. They made eclairs, pastry eclairs. And on it, in their language, they've written vile threats against the children of Palestine. So they're feeding karmic bonbons to their children. The level of sickness that has been allowed is unhinged. There's a documentary you may want to look at called Tantura. It was about a village in Palestine called Tantura and the unbelievable debauchery that happened from a particular group of people that were establishing their right to own a land that should have never been given. You can thank the British government for the fuckery, because they handed a land that was not theirs to give away. Not theirs. We've seen what our governments have done to the Native American people, fractured, destroyed, with trauma that was not part of their karma. They were free people, and we're seeing it again. Gentle people, the Palestinian gentle people. Fuck when people go, oh, the age group. The age group didn't come into birthing until the 80s, 88, if I'm correct. 1948 to 88, 1988, 40 years later. And if President Carter can walk into a country and walk out, which is, he visited Palestine, the West Bank, Gaza, and walk out saying this is worse than apartheid in South Africa, that should tell you something. And this was an interview that he gave back in the early 90s. You can look it up. You don't have to take my word for it. Go research. Okay? So, as spiritualists, the only thing we can do is to talk about it, like I am, to talk about it, to realize that this is a level of betrayal to an innocent people who opened their doors to people who were thrown out of a lot of countries. No one wanted them in there. No one wanted them, okay? But the Palestinians opened their hearts and their homes That's why you have a lot of Palestinians spread all over the world with keys, worthless keys to homes that no longer exist. Worthless, but it's a symbol. What you can do as a spiritualist is meditate on the new earth. All answers lie in a new system that no longer allows these psychopathic billionaires from ruining our ability to ascend. And I'm not quite sure how people who are starving to death and from dehydration, I don't know if you have ever had a sunstroke, but multiply that by 1,000 and multiply that. And watching your baby die of dysentery and starvation. That is probably the most evil shit. Meanwhile, they've had drones flying over these people so frequently. We all know the importance of frequency sound and how sound can destroy and sound can heal. We know this. Any of you who've gone to a yoga studio for sound baths, you know this. So for over 550 days, and a couple dimes, okay? These people have had to listen to this shit day and night, 24/7, to fuck up their nervous system and to fuck up their ability to die with dignity. At least that. And there's something so evil and unhinged that there are people, like there was a person that was following me on Facebook and who still had the October 7th as an excuse. It's a good thing she wasn't in front of me. You can imagine that I not only that I give her my 2 cents, because they're only 2 cents, but then I blocked her ass. There are certain people that none of us as spiritualists should fucking tolerate. And that is anyone who's going to argue this as a right to defend. They also have concentration camps there, by the way. But the eclairs threw me for a loop. Like, you're going to take my fucking food, right? You're going to appropriate my food, French, right? And then you're going to write your little fucked up comments on it saying to annihilate a people. Annihilate a whole people. I'm trying to be very careful here because I want to be able to do more lives, but I want to be very careful. In fact, I've been sick over this. And Bizan, it could be her last message. But the fact that they corralled him and there was a ceasefire and celebration and, and then Trump with his little comment of finishing them off unless they do an agreement. And the difference between how hostages from the Israeli people, okay? The hostages from that, the difference in the look, the way they look, as opposed to the people coming out of the H group, is there's no arguments. There's a massive difference. Massive. The people coming from the H group are coming out healthy. They look like they haven't missed a meal. Let's put it that way. Meanwhile, the one on the other side are looking like they've just gone through a... I don't even... They've been tortured. There are kids who are in Israel right now who are refusing to serve, and they are being thrown in jail. That's not coming out either. There's some massive shit going on. If you think that it has nothing to do with your twin flame journey and the ascension, you're dead wrong. It has everything to do with our ascension. Because when that many people are about to drop their bodies in the level of despair, unjust starvation, fear, anger, whatever, a feeling of betrayal, panic, griefs, you can't even swallow the grief these people are going through right now. Many of you have children, and I need you to actually be empathic. I want you to slide your feet in their sandals, their feet, walk beside them, walk inside of them, and see how you would react to this. The kidnapping of children is documented. There are IOF soldiers talking about how they go and do 3 a.m. Runs into these people's homes that have nothing to do with anything, taking photos of their children, and a week later coming back to arrest a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, whatever, for no reason. And it's documented in their own mouths. So when the excuse of H and the one that really has me sickened is, why don't the Egyptians want him? Why don't they want him? Why won't... Ask yourself, why aren't these people united? Why was Africa not united for fucking hundreds of years? Why wasn't Africa united? Oh, by the way, anyone that's... You don't like what I'm saying? Too bad. Keep going. Keep scrolling. But... ask yourself why. And there's a particular gentleman, I'm not going to say his name, but you can look him up. He's always in uniform. And he has made it a right for every woman to give birth for free. No woman, he said, should pay to give birth to a life. And he's been getting a lot of DEATH threats, a lot, and attempts. He wants to unify Africa. That has been a goal. It's like, if you're an American, like, open your eyes, because a lot of the Europeans already know everything I'm telling you. The Europeans know this already. If you don't know this shit, then you need to educate yourself. You need to look at African newspapers, and then it'll explain to you what's going on with the Arabic world. You need to look at what the Arabs are saying so you understand what's going on, what's really, really going on. Because colonialism from the French and the British was unhinged. It was cruel. It was narcissistic. And it was barbaric from those who claimed they were more civilized than the indigenous people living in their land. And it created a diaspora, not just physically leaving their countries, but also spiritually. And so 1.7 million people have been corralled like coyotes, like horses about to be, pew-pewed. And unfortunately, The Hague, who delivered their ruling, don't have the power, apparently, to use Interpol to fucking go out and start, arresting people like they did during the Nuremberg trials. And just so you know, my father, and I'm going to say this, during the Nuremberg trials, he was in an African prison with an SS officer and a Jewish man. Imagine that one. And I won't go too much into detail, but to suffice it to say, that SS officer was 61 years old, and he was a brutal man. And he had been arrested in Africa, in Ghana, as a matter of fact, to be sent back to face trial. So when they want to, they will. And they haven't, have they? They're not going after these people. And these people feel like they're untouchable. Over a dam, a canal? Is that what it's about? What is it really about? Or is it about something even more nefarious? Siphoning energy off people's despair. Read David Icke, The Reveal. Read his book. In fact, watch what he says about many things, and he's quite careful. We have been watching in horror before this planet was born on other planets. There was a wonderful spiritualist who went through a hypnotherapy watching her planet being destroyed by evil factions. They're playing us again. And unlike those past galactic battles and genos and all of the things that went on, we can do something spiritually by harnessing your personal energy. And the anger that is being, that's erupting out of individuals all around the world at the impotence of their own power, individual power, is exactly what they want. They want people to feel rage. It lowers the frequency. They want people to feel impotent. It gives them a sense of despair. It's exactly what they want. So not only are they siphoning people who are going to lose their lives, but they're siphoning and lowering the energies of people who are empathic, who care. So when I say walk in their sandals, walk in their shoes, be them, I'm not saying that to you who probably already gives a shit. I'm saying that to you listening to me who thinks that what I'm saying has no relevance to the spiritual journey. It's for you. It's not for the other people listening to me who fucking already get this. It's for you. What the hell's wrong with you? You call yourself a spiritualist? Why aren't you talking about it? If the ascension is that important to you, you should be talking about it. And then you should be coming up with solutions. What do we do now? Because protesting certainly hasn't helped. They are arresting everyone that does. And they're punishing the countries that are against this. Have you noticed? So, the only thing you can do as a spiritualist is to offer sacred space to the souls they're about to leave. Because of engineered, sadistic, forced famine. And we have to hold sacred space so that their souls find their way home in the least amount of trauma possible. And we also have to keep visualizing a system, a planet that is not a frequency match to allowing these evil governmental individuals, agencies to continue thriving. And what we do is you don't say, I don't want this. What you say is, this is what I want. This is what I'm visualizing. This is what I see. The new earth, the 5D, all of that. Because let's not bullshit each other. You can't do shit about it, neither can I. But we can actually use power. The power that people have done to heal their inoperable cancers. So use that power. Use it and create something with it that is so beautiful, so strong, that it cannot be destroyed by the ravages of the 1% and their little agendas, their petty agendas. They're not elite. The elite are us. We're the elite. We're the ones who are Jedi, Shaolin masters who can actually do this. We've seen what people can do. The powers they wield with their minds. We've seen what people can manifest. The impossible becoming possible. We've seen it. We've been trained watching them. And so now it's time for us to feel as if we are as important to this shift, change that we've been begging for centuries. And it really is up to you. You can scroll and get angry and lose your shit, and you're right exactly where they want you on a frequency level. That's exactly where they want you. But if you do what I've just suggested, we together can win this. We can actually win. And what do we win? We can win a new earth. We can win where famine, billionaires, and I'm not all billionaires are evil, but I've met very few that aren't. There's two that I can think of. Michael Singer and J.K. Rowling, in my opinion. Because both of them keep giving back and siphoning off and throwing the money away to different charities and different things and constantly. But most of them, and most people looking to hit that 500 million mark, they don't give a fuck what's happening right now. They really don't. Their next goal is, where's my next deal? That's all they care about. Where's my next deal? Not, I have $100 million extra. What can I do to make sure that this shit in Gaza ends? How do I make this work, that it ends? How do I bring food in? When it first started, the king of Jordan and his daughter, in the cover of night, I don't know if you know this, were dropping, through parachute, they were dropping food packets to Gaza. This would have been around 2023, 2024, like at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. They did it twice, and apparently they got their hands slapped because it stopped. You know this, right? I hope you know this. The other thing that happened, this was documented, I saw with my own 2 eyes, and if you want to know more about what's happening on the ground, Telegram's your best bet. But these nefarious MFers were sending toy food, children, like little hamburgers made out of plastic, throwing that out of their fucking whatever drones, because they're cowards, with little notes about get the fuck out of here. If you are around people who don't believe that this is a geno, it's time for you to make real decisions about what kind of conversations you're going to move forward with these people. Because you can't, I'm sorry, if you're a spiritualist, you cannot allow people to be in their delulu world listening to ABC, CB, whoever the fuck is talking this shit. I don't even own a TV. I threw my TV away 20 years ago after Katrina hit. After that bullshit happened, I was done with the news. I knew then it was all a joke and a hustle. So it's really up to you what you're going to do. What do you want to hear? What do you want to know? So, yeah, I heard about that. Okay, well, there you go. And that was, the eclairs took me. I mean, the eclairs, I was like, you've got to be kidding. They're writing, let's level Gaza. I mean, let's end it. Let's level them, whatever, on the eclairs. And feeding it to children and talking about who's being brainwashed. It's fucking incredible. They're calling it a war. Correct, people. It's not a fucking war. It's not a war. It wasn't a war with the Native Americans of this country. The Apaches, the Lakotas. That wasn't a war. That was a joke. Okay? They didn't have a shot in hell, and you know it. I know it. So, try to get into a Buddhist, Shaolin master, Jedi warrior energy in terms of what we've been taught, little by little, spoon-fed our innate power to shift realities from one to another. We've never done it to this level of understanding. As I've said before about starseeds, when we were on other planets, a lot of us were fucking naive. We were naive. We were like fucking 14-year-old kids on a spiritual level. We were advanced in what we knew, but evil was something we could not understand. For many of us, we did not understand evil. Many of us fell here and we learned not only what evil was, but in some incarnations, we became the evil, to be blunt, which looped us into more karma. I'm not here to save people like, these people that think it's okay to do what they're doing, constantly trying to slap us down saying that, we have a right to exist. We have a right to defend ourselves. At this point now, it's kind of like a man with a shotgun shooting inside a barrel with chicks. That's exactly the visual they just gave me, my guides. That's how even this is. Okay? So, if we want this century to be the end of the fuckery that has plagued, and this is exactly what happened to the Irish. I think it was either 4 million or 6 million people that died in 4 years or 5 years from forced famine. Thank you, Queen Victoria. Let's make another movie about how great of a queen you were. And this has been continuous for centuries. So this is a crossroad moment in our ability to change this whole dynamic, to never haunt this planet ever again. I've heard that they used bombs that were, 100 times more than Hiroshima. Are you fucking kidding me? And you don't think the planet is going to have problems I don't mean the planet Pachamama, her spirit. I mean literally the fucking planet itself. You can't use tools of mass extinction like that again and again in the ocean, on its body, and not think that we're not going to have some fucking problems like tsunamis and earthquakes and shit just fucking going unhinged like a domino effect. Number one, we have people that are not using any level of sense about what that kind of abuse of warfare is going to do to this planet in even a year from now, 2 years from now. In terms of water purity and the integrity of the system, of it, the planet itself. It could flip on its fucking back. It could literally, we could have another deluge. And the fact that people who can't even think 10 steps ahead, much less anything in front of their nose, and who are that stupid and actually cruel, is dangerous. And it's been allowed for too long. We've had them, William Wallace had to deal with guys like that. Charlemagne, Yeshua. And we didn't have to worry too much because there wasn't too much damage that could be done. Because the weapons weren't that insane, unhinged, dangerous. And they're using these weapons like this is a video game. As a matter of fact, it's interesting to note that many of the people waging this have been teased on war games, on their little videos. I first realized that when I saw how our American soldiers were dealing with Afghanistan and these other countries with their headsets on, with the music on, and thinking that, I guess trying to make sense of it all, unlike Vietnam, which was technicolor in your face awful. We've desensitized our youth. We've turned, we should have never had war games as video games. I don't even understand a society that thinks that's normal. I don't even understand parents who would say, yeah, let's do this. Let's buy Jimmy a whole game on annihilating a whole village. And not think there'd be a consequence to that down the line. In terms of a complete lack of empathy, a complete lobotomization of giving a fuck about other sentient beings. What do you expect when you raise people like that? Anyway, I can't go on in my full ability to express myself because honestly, they're good at yanking, meaning TikTok. If we don't do something, when I was a young, play Metal Gear Solid. Well, I mean, why? And it's not to put you down. It's to say, why would your parents fucking allow it? I'm not joking. I don't know what people think, but parenting is about teaching your kid. If you don't have a religious base, which I'm against religion anyway, but at least have a philosophical base. At least give something to the kid, right and wrong. Is this good? No, it's not. Why? Well, because of this. Let's talk about it. Raising your kid means raising your kid, just like you would raise a plant in a pot. You would water it, you would fertilize it, you would talk to it, and you would get the fruits of your labor. A kid isn't something you just let run wild. A kid is it's a soul that's come in saying, I need your guidance. Hopefully you'll guide me or you'll fuck me up for the rest of my life. You choose. The expectant eyes of a newborn is quite something. And some parents actually, I don't know, they're clueless. But I can tell you that what's happening and what's about to happen right now with Bizan basically leaving her last message. I mean, do you understand? Do you understand the mindfuckery? Think of the psychopathic narcissist that says, ceasefire, go back to your land. Oh, don't go back to your land, but go back to your land, but we won't. And then surrounds them and blocks all foods. Think of the mindset of settlers who were stopping convoys of trucks of food and water and diapers and medicines, stopping them, camping out Having parties. People having parties in their terrace in Israel, watching bombings. Having a cocktail party. But the point is, it was a party, whatever kind of party. Pizza party, pool party, enjoying the view. That's on film. That's not me talking shit, making it up. That is on film. There's footage of everything I'm telling you. I've seen it with my own two eyes. And if you really want to get off and look at it, you can look at it. Go look at it. Ever since we had the 12-hour shutdown on this app, a lot of things have not been shown. A lot. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to hear of such horrific news 7 days a week. That's the nature of a geno. It's also the nature of wars, but we're not going to call this one a war because it's not an even playing field at fucking all. And don't bring up H to me because we're not going there, because there was a PLO and now there's H. And if you've ever read books on PLO, do some research. Why did it happen? The Nakba. Why? Why did the Nakba happen should be your question. Why would anyone come in as a host guest to a country and annihilate a whole people and then drive 750,000 people out of their land? Why would they do that as a guest? You're a fucking guest in my house. It's no different than I invite a homeless person in my house, they take over my house, and they start beating the shit out of my kids and telling me to get the fuck out of my house. That's exactly, and this is not a metaphor, it's exactly what happened. The Hague ruled with millions of videos, and I'm not overstating, millions of videos. They ruled that this was a geno. They ruled that people needed to face the courts, just like they did for Nuremberg. And nothing has been done. Not one fucking arrests. Though I have to give credit to some countries who will not let some of these, former soldiers from that part of the world step foot into their land. You know why that's smart? Because anyone that's capable of doing that shit is dangerous to basic people. You don't want people like that around you, trust me. You don't want them around your kids. You don't want them around you because you don't know. They're already unhinged. The fact that they're capable of doing that and then nonchalantly go back to their life and have a hamburger in anywhere in the world, like nothing, like that's a twisted mind, and that's a dangerous person to be around. They're dangerous. They should not be allowed. They're dangerous. They should not be allowed to come back to a regular life because this is not a war. It's not World War II. It isn't. Though they're begging for one, don't they? They're begging for one. Look at what's happening to the piece of work that is the president of India, Prime Minister, whatever the hell he is, and him, cozying up with Bibi. And then starting trouble with the Pakistani people. What the fuck? Why? Isn't peace good enough for you? What are you trying to win? But we go back to the beginning of colonialism. It ruined countries for 200-300 years. Countries that should have been wealthy, like Africa, for example. It's a great example. They have everything they need. They don't need shit from anyone. Trust me. And every white person, black person, Asian person, every person I've ever met that's gone to Africa has come back going, holy fuck. It's beautiful. It's incredible. They love showing us pictures of a certain little group that's starving as if that's the whole story of Africa. You'll see African people, men and women, walking down the street with an iPhone that's worth $2,000. They paid cash. They didn't need credit. They didn't need a payment plan. They paid cash. They paid for that phone. They walked out with it in their hand, fully paid. I've never heard a person say a bad thing about visiting that part of the world. Because it is rich in culture, there's something primal and wild and beautiful. Why would any colonialist system want a country that was worthless? I mean, think about the propaganda. They would never go if it wasn't worth something. They would have never stayed in India for 200 years, or Africa for 200 years, or China if it was worth nothing. They went because those lands were magical and had incredible resources. Fuck the gold and diamonds, which De Beer owns. Good luck, But there was something else. There was raw materials. There was also a sense of freedom. Why do you think Europeans would live in the Serengeti or Kenya and make a whole entire lifestyle in those parts of the world? Because it was something that made you feel alive. It was a lifestyle that they could not enjoy for $1 million in their home country. So we've been lied to about many things for many centuries to keep us afraid and held back from exploring these countries. And they've created many genos in those countries. But why? I'm not kidding when I tell you there's not a lot of things there's tons of things you may disagree with David Icke. Tons, right? But one of the things he's a master of is understanding evil. Poor man. He's had to actually go down that rabbit hole. He understands evil. He understands these kinds of minds, and he understands how it's connected to the galactic systems of oppression. The dark side of the Anunnaki, the dark side of Draconians, the evil and what they do with siphoning fear and despair and pain, how they use it, why they need it, how long it's been going on. He talks about it. You don't have to agree with everything he says. Judge what he says as whatever you like, take it. Whatever you don't like, don't take it. It's that simple. But the reveal, which I have to literally take small bites of that book, because you'll do a half chapter and put the book down and go, fuck. And it's like a long sigh coming out of your body, my body. Because what he's saying, I'm seeing go down. And it's not something he wants to do. It's a mission. George Galloway is another one you should follow. George Galloway has always been a righteous man. I met him, actually. He's an amazing man. And he's been talking about Palestine for a long time. These people aren't stupid, okay? They're not stupid. There are people with the right, what is it called? Right to birth or trip, I forget what the fuck it is, but a couple Jewish people have gone on the bus and asked really hard questions and been asked to get the fuck off the bus. I'm not joking. There's videos on that too. So there are rabbis putting their lives on the line. There are devout Jewish people who have in fact, some have lost their entire community who believe in this shit. At the end of the day, these people are humanists. They believe in human rights. They believe in justice. Why would they disagree with their own people if they didn't see what I saw, what you see? And they have been arrested and beaten up for speaking out. So it was supposed to be never again for everyone, not an elite few, not the chosen. And there's no such thing. You know what I'm going to say to you? The chosen people right now, in my opinion, are the 1.7 million that have been that are caught in a place where they will drop their bodies. And why are they chosen? Well, because they're showing us the incredible, vile, evil corruptness of many, many governments, not just many. And they've sacrificed themselves. A meditation I had was to ask why. And I was told they knew this was going to, many of these souls, not all of them obviously, but some of these souls are really special souls. I'm thinking of a young girl who was, when it first began in October, spilling into November, going into December, and crossing into the fucking following year of 2024. She was on her phone, live streaming, showing the buildings, the explosion, all the shit that was going down. And she was showing, and she couldn't even, I think she was like 21, 20 or 21. And she couldn't hold back her fear because each time there was a slam, an explosion, she would jump almost out of her skin. Afraid, terrified. She didn't make it, by the way. She didn't survive. Eventually, she did become a victim. Beautiful soul. Over 200 journalists were annihilated by this regime. World War II lasted what? 1939 to 1945, correct? Okay. 6 years, right? Okay. In 6 years, we lost, I believe, 71 journalists. It was a world war, my friends. War. A complete... It was going on in the Pacific and in the European stage. 71. 200. It's not even been 2 years yet. They're annihilating poets, architects, thinkers, doctors, walking into annihilating hospitals. The Geneva Convention was put into place to stop this kind of shit. It's like a billionaire's son who's mentally deranged, who's doing all kinds of lines of you-know-what, who's decided that, the world is his stage and he'll do whatever the fuck he wants. And he gets away with it because daddy will bail him out every time. In fact, he doesn't even spend time in jail because he'll just speed dial, daddy, tell the COPS not to. And they let him go again and again. Why? Why is this happening? Well, it started with the lockdown. And the awakening, many of you, I should say, rubbed the sleep from your eyes and you started realizing that the whole system was corrupt. Young kids being born in 2000, 1998 to 2000 were saying things like, these jobs are shit. This is not how to live. They were saying what everyone had never allowed themselves to say. Your parents, your grandparents, parents before that. This isn't life. I don't want to work 9 to 5. I don't want to do this. And they were called lazy. And I would say, no, they were enlightened. They were awake. They knew the bullshit. They knew the hamster wheel would take them nowhere. They knew that to pay taxes on a property you had paid off and that there were elderlies who were losing their property for a $4,000 property tax was insane. Why should I work for that for my entire life? These kids are smart. They're starseeds. They're here to kick down doors and ask questions, very uncomfortable questions. That's why people like Whoopi Goldberg calls them lazy. They're not lazy, they're smart. They're asking questions. They're walking across the country with backpacks. They're traveling all over the world. They're using social media. They're talking. They're figuring shit out. They're like saying, I want more from my life. I want to be with my beloved. I want to raise my kids. What an idea, raising your kids yourself. Imagine that, and then not putting them to a daycare center. They're asking all the right questions. They're not lazy. They're not going to fucking drink the Kool-Aid. And there's that began to show. And they saw that many people were very easily corralled into fear with this thing. And Fauci. And people really, believed in this. And finally, we came out of that. And a lot of people have said to me that most of their spiritual awakening came from TikTok. They started listening to other people. Books that had been buried in the dust of time, books by Zachary Stitchin on our making, the way we were made. Not Darwinism theory, us coming from monkeys. not Adam and Eve, but how we were engineered and why from the Sumerian tablets. And then finally, just recently, some guy was able, I get a team of people, were able to, I'm going to say X-ray, but it's not what happened. It's something else. I forgot the term. The structure below the Pyramid of Giza. So in just 12 months, we've gone through your bags, because I have to say that the last time I said it, I was pulled, orbs, okay? And then the Pyramid of Giza's found the bottom of Pyramid of Giza, like underneath the ground. And we're like, wait, hang on. No one could have engineered this from this planet. We actually, and this is real, architects, engineers, construction experts cannot replicate those pyramids at all, period, at all. And so what's beneath it, they definitely can't replicate. And what's interesting, it came out and you've heard nothing of it. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. What is beneath the pyramids of Giza? You'll see it. In 12 months, we have been exposed to so much truth because we were given a technology called a cell phone with camera and video to find truth and record it, to prove things that were unjust. And what we do with that information is energetic. The last time, in every time that the Galactic Council helped us, they helped us for one generation. I know because I asked them. I'm not kidding. I asked, why aren't you helping us? What the fuck? Why aren't you fucking helping us? And they said, because every time we've helped you, it lasted one generation. And then it went right back. And we are giving you sacred space, but your people, this generation has to push us all to the other side into 5D. A great interview to watch is on Gaia.com. Look up Adam Apollo and watch part 1 and part 2. He's being interviewed by Rudy something. I forgot his last name. And it's about him being in the Pleiades during Burning Man and the telepathic communication he's having from the Galactic Council on our worthiness as human sentient beings. Watch it. He did that interview, I think, it could have been 2018 or 2019. It was a long time ago. Watch it. Watch what is being oppressed. Do you realize that when we used to speak, as I do, when we used to meet, as we're meeting right now, around bonfires, around temples, that the minute they heard of us doing this, talking in this way, we were accused of witchery. We were hunted down like dogs and burned and crucified. This is the first time in the history of humanity since Atlantis fell that we are allowed to actually speak about the unseen and what's behind the veils and the various dimensions and planets and existences that we have had. First time, without looking over our shoulder. And that's true for only parts of this planet. Other parts of the planet are still stuck in the fucking dark ages. And you know what I'm talking about. So, the energy of your intention is going to be either owned by them or owned by you for the greater good. You're either going to harness your power or they will grab it from you and steal it once again, as they've done in many of your incarnations. It's really that simple. So, if you've never meditated before, and never visualized in your meditation of what you want this earth to be, I think it's time you started immediately, like tonight. And start doing it every day. And start writing in present tense the planet, Because you see, all your personal problems, your money problems, your health problems, your mental health problems, all those problems, they go when 5D is finally present. When we catch up and we open that door to 5D, most of the problems you have, you won't have them anymore at all. You won't have money problems at all, because that won't be a factor anymore. How do you control that many people? You have them fighting to keep their heads above water. And you come up with new distractions to keep them constantly struggling to survive. And then you give them little distractions like football games and movies and other distractions, fearsome ones as well. And then you really fucking double down with grocery bills and light bills and threats. And the sword is over your head 24/7. There was always something to fear. It's by design. And so you have to decide who owns your energy, you or them. Hopefully you'll decide and you'll realize that you are important in the greater scope of this new age that has been promised. But not just promised, is revealing glimmers of its existence. Just the fact that you and I are having this one-sided conversation, technically. The fact that you're sitting here following me in this conversation, the fact that some of it must make sense to yourselves, or you would have scrolled by now. Many of you are scrolling. You're not getting it. You don't give a shit. You think I'm cuckoo, and I don't give a fuck. What I do know is that reality is much more than what you think. The Vedas were talking about other planets 10,000 years ago. There are African tribes that knew of certain planets and star systems before we ever, scientifically speaking, discovered them. So, logical thinking, I scoff at logical thinking, because logical thinking is limited thinking. It's fearful thinking. It's lack consciousness. It doesn't want to know. And yet we've proven again and again that what we thought was okay and absolutely the fucking truth, 45 years later, we realize, oh, fuck, we were wrong. Like, for example, telling people that their brain was fully developed by the time they're 25. Then finally, we find out later, because science had to grow, that the brain is plastic. The brain is ever evolving. But for years, decades, we thought the brain was set in stone. Limitations fed to everybody on the planet. So that by the time they were 25, they pretty much thought, I'm fucked. I can't change my habits. I can't change who I am. I can't change anything. I can't become anything more than I am. The dial was on low. And so we never grew. There were certain things that were so normalized that are so horrific, like something is benign and it's not benign. In the 50s, they were pulling people's teeth out and fitting them with dentures. Why is that important to say? Because they had a whole fucking planet getting their teeth knocked out to put dentures in so they could sell denture and the cleaner. Why am I saying that? Because we have been always taught to follow the most absurd shit for no reason except that that's just how it is. It's interesting. There's a scene in 1883. I don't know if you saw it, where he's shaving himself. The older guy, I forgot his name, but it's Harrison Ford and his lady, right? And she's talking about how she loves watching him shave. And then she talks about how they've come up with a woman's razor to shave between their legs. She said, and their legs and their armpits. And she said, it's so absurd. And they're going back and forth in the conversation of how a need is created by telling people it's a need that they must, do, or else they're not part of the game. You don't belong. You're dirty if you don't do that. You know what I mean? And one of the things that's, I mean, I'm still in shock the show's on, because a lot of the shit they're talking about is absolutely, if you really pay attention, is right on the mark. We've been manipulated, corralled, and played for so long, we don't even know what's fucking real anymore. And the only way you can actually go through the process of rewiring your fear-based brainwash mentality is to meditate every day, to grow the minutes from 5 minutes to 6 minutes, but you do it every day. In other words, for a whole month, you do 5 minutes. I don't give a shit if you did it for one whole year. That's all you could handle is 5 minutes for a year. But if you never missed a day, rain or shine, depression or not, happiness or not, drunk or not, sober or whatever you're doing, you never missed a day. That would have more potency in rewiring your brain and taking back your power than doing fucking an hour once a month, 20 minutes once a week. Little by little, you would excavate all the fuckery out of your brain without even you being fully aware of it. And suddenly one day, 6 months later, waking up going, I feel peace. And realizing that you're literally manifesting impossible shit with ease. Sometimes just saying, I want this, and this item that you want, or this situation or opportunity that you want, appears within a day, within an hour, whatever, however. And the universe does that to train you, to show you that if you intend, we will show up and show you how easy it is to manifest. The Akashic record keepers, the masters of that incredible great hall, will say, oh, okay, yeah, they're showing up. Let's give them some nectar from their own book of lives. Because you see, my friend, we have many, 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 many paths. You can be a pauper or a king. You can be a sage or an evil conqueror. You can be a nobody or in the shadows, in a peaceful place, a Shaolin master that changes the frequency and the grid and the ley lines of this planet to balance out the injustice. It's really up to you what you want to be. It really is. It's up to you. You can play small and never show up to yourself and betray yourself, and it'll come up in your next life again and again. You will be a frequency match to losing to yourself, to betraying yourself, to muzzling your own voice. Or you can show up. And you can take baby steps until you are sure-footed, and suddenly you're running down the beach of the ocean of consciousness, and you're like in awe of your life, as you should be, because if you're not in awe of your life, then what are you doing with your life? What have you done? And don't get me wrong, for a good 40 years of my life, I was small. But then again, I was a woman, and because I was a woman, I was waiting for my man to come out and, make it happen. I hope the last generation to ever do that. Because in the perfect world, it's the masculine and feminine that create an incredible life together, apart and together, apart and together. And they create in their own minds and in their own hearts a beautiful planet. But to be fair, I think most people of my generation were already only able to keep our heads above water. So we couldn't think, we couldn't philosophize, we couldn't figure out what was being done to us without our consent. Because our parents had been so brainwashed that had been normalized for them. And so we continued in the same way, thinking, being lied to. Do you know there was two videos of 2 Yale students saying, I graduated, I can't find a fucking job. Can't find a job. So, going back to what's happening to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, what's been happening in Sudan. And by the way, yeah, that is a country where they don't have cell phones. They can't document what's going on for the most part. They can't. Or the Congo, parts of India. They can't. And the silence of the brutality of the imbalanced power of the 1% is not going to destroy us unless you allow it by not doing any energy work. You see, you don't need to go and do anything physically. It's not as important as what you do inside internally. And the world you want has to be created within yourself for it to then reveal itself out into the reality so that all of us collectively for it to then reveal itself out into the reality so that all of us collectively for hundreds of years. And now it's time for us to get together collectively, consciously, mindfully, stepping into each of our power to create a grid of a new earth. If only some of us do it and not as many of us as possible, then only a small amount will cross over and many will be left behind. And that means that you have to have these uncomfortable conversations with people who are asleep. And if they refuse, if they slap your hand away and they insult you and they berate you, very much like Plato's parable of the cave. If you don't know that story, you should. You can look it up on my YouTube channel. It's on there. You got to scroll back to 2023. But then don't argue, walk away. I don't care if it's your mother, your father, your neighbor, your uncle, your lover, your child. I don't give a fuck. Walk away. Let it go. But we must at least make an effort to wake people's eyes up by literally pulling out the phone going, here's another video, here's another video, here's another video. You see, it's documented shit. Well, what about October 7th? Here's another video. Here's Tantura. Here, watch this documentary. Wake the fuck up. I think this is the worst time in history. I'm not joking. I really actually believe it's the worst time in history. I think it's a culmination of what happened in Rwanda. I think it's what happened in Vietnam. Again, colonialists, the French. I'm half French. What we did to the Vietnamese, this fear of the red, the Americans walking in thinking they fucking knew better and getting their ass handed back to them, right? Let's be honest. So, we're sick of it. Many of you have had incarnations as soldiers, warriors, as victims of those men, and you're sick of it too. You're fucking tired. When you feel tired, it's the scenes of having to pay your taxes and standing in line in the Middle Ages. And all you have are 2 chickens that lay your eggs. And you're about to give the only food you have to pay the taxes and you're still short. That was the reality of people. They have been playing us and fucking driving us to the ground for fucking centuries. And then scaring us, no matter what you think. Again, I keep telling people, watch the movie Braveheart all over again. Watch it all over again. And the last scene in that movie is basically a warning to people 1,000 years later. In this case, 500-600 years later. Joan of Arc, same thing. What happens to her? It's about creating a fear that makes us afraid of crossing the veils. And when a person no longer fears that, that's when massive change happens. And what's really fucked up is that there are people going through massive depression that are doing that instead of becoming the warriors they were born to be, to say, I don't fear shit. And becoming an empowered voice. Instead, they are actually self-annihilating themselves because of the massive despair. They're letting despair turn on them. It's cannibalizing their very souls. instead of saying, I stand in my own 2 feet in my full power, and I'm not afraid of shit. There's nothing you can take from me. There's nothing you have I want. Not one fucking thing. And that's the kind of power we need to develop in ourselves so that we can move into this incredible, again, I go back to Shaolins. Why? Because they never used violence. It was the last fucking even last resort. But they had other powers. I have a vision of the monks in Nepal, I think it's Nepal, where they're up in the snow. I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again. They're up in the snow. It's fucking cold. It's probably -9, okay? And they've got ice forming on their beards or on their heads, and they're given a heavy wool blanket that's absolutely soaked. And you know how wool gets so heavy. And there they are meditating and chanting a mantra. And before you know it, the blanket is dry and there's steam coming off them, and they are warm in the dead middle of the snow. They've controlled their monkey mind. They're so in control of their monkey mind that they can transmute what would give you and me pneumonia. And they've been able to shift the concept of what is real, right? Because in reality, that shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't be, drying a blanket. They shouldn't be able to do that. But they have. It's on footage. You can look it up. And suddenly, they're able to do magical shit. Wim Hof, who's known as the Iceman, was able to climb Kilimanjaro in his shorts. That's impossible. It's cold as fuck, for one. And he's shown us. People are doing ice, dropping into water. That's ancient shit. That's ancient knowledge. He's all the way back. But he's able to show us how he controlled his temperature, his body, with his mind. It wasn't just he trained himself to do it. So all of these people who have taught us in their own ways the magic when we control our monkey mind and it serves our soul, how we can literally manifest the impossible, that's what you need to master. You need to master your monkey mind. And when you do that, you will be able to manifest the impossible. The material lack that you may be experiencing will no longer be an issue. But if you put your mind for the greater good of yourself and the collective, because a lot of people, when they're in survival mode, they don't give a shit about anyone else. And yet we have stories about this that have been told to us. And I forgot which part of the world this story comes from, but I'll say it's from, let me tell you this story. It's about a king who wanted to know, he wanted to meet the most devout people, the most humble people. He wanted to understand his people. And so he came as a pauper, dirty, nasty, greasy clothes, and his hair was a mess. And he went from one household to a household asking for a crumb of bread and water. And they all, scoffed at him and threw him out or threw stones at him or trash. And again, he went from one place to another. And finally, he came across a very old, poor couple. It was the last house in his kingdom. And they had nothing. They were about to have dinner, a bowl of rice and some dal, something like that. There was very little. It was just enough for one person, but they were going to share it together. And when he knocked on the door in their little hovel, they welcomed him in. And they gave them, he got most of the food. And he was so moved by their generosity and gentleness of spirit and their humility that he revealed himself as the king and built them a beautiful dwelling and made sure that the last years on this planet, they had incredible abundance. It was his gift to them. And he realized how the ones that have the least amount are quite often the most generous, because they have the empathy to realize what it is to go hungry. And they realize the unfairness. And I don't know what's happened to us on this planet, but the fact that we look at our own homeless Americans, veterans, people who did nothing wrong, people who developed drug addictions because of it. I mean, come on, you think you're going to be homeless sober? How long do you think you're going to last being sober? I mean, really. The way people judge those people, like they're trash, like they're nasty, like they're dirty. I've heard people say, why are you giving him money? They're going to buy alcohol. They're going to buy this. They're going to buy that. Why are you giving them food? They should just pull themselves up. We've allowed the lack of empathy and generosity to become normalized in our society. Is there no wonder all of you are afraid as you live one paycheck to paycheck? And so we have to change things around. And you have it in your grasp. You decide today. You look in the mirror tonight. You make your meditation pact 5 minutes a day. Put it on your fucking alarm clock. You have nothing better to do. You're scrolling, doom scrolling on your phone. Fuck it. And you're going to start new habits starting tonight. Not tomorrow. No, fuck tomorrow. Not Monday. Tonight. When you stop listening to me or you go on to something else, you're going to get off this fucking phone, put it on 5 minutes, and you're going to sit there while your monkey mind howls to get up. And you're going to fight it 5 minutes. You're going to chant a mantra. And if you don't know any, you're going to do Om again until your monkey mind shuts up. You're going to do breathing, deep breathing. You're going to work on your chakras. If you only know your 7, that's what you're going to do. You're going to work on your chakras, turning them clockwise. And before you know it, that bell will ring 5 minutes. And you're going to do it every day. And then you're going to learn mantras on my playlist. You're going to go on my playlist and you're going to download mantras. And you start learning them. And you're going to start doing some guided meditation, Ho'oponopono, to forgive yourself. On my YouTube channel, I have a, you can look up, you can scroll and put most popular and you'll come up. And it's the soul retrieval guided meditation. Do it today, do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter, but the 5 minutes, I insist. You're not getting away with it. You're going to do the 5 minutes. And you're going to start visualizing during your meditation what you want for yourself, the planet, and then the bell would ring. But the soul retrieval meditation, you're going to ask your soul what it needs you to know. So before you start your guided meditation, you're going to sage yourself. You're going to lay down in the bed or wherever, and you're going to say to yourself, please show me what I need to know. Show me what I have forgotten about myself. Show me who I really am. And then you'll go through the journey of the guided meditation and you'll see what is revealed to you. Don't be afraid. And that's your homework. If you want to do 5 minutes a day and add a minute per week, do it. If you can't, it's okay. Because I'm going to tell you something. Out of 8 billion people, there's probably, I don't know, maybe 20 million meditating every day. Maybe. I mean, every day, never missed a day for years. There's probably maybe 20 million. Do you see the problem here? We're out of fucking balance. And it needs change, and you're part of that change. Okay? Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Any comments? We are speaking, you are speaking my thoughts. I'm glad to hear that. Wow, it's good to see that. Any questions? Okay, good. All right, that's it. That's what you do. You'll be fine. Let me see. Thank you, Tiny, for following me. There's a lot of love on this planet. This planet is a beautiful place. It's the 1% and their bullshit that's fucking it up. And it's been like that ever since. We've always had wonderful moments. We've always had the nectar of living on this planet. This planet, the diversity, the magic of its landmass. Trust me, as a hypnotherapist, I've had people go back into other realms, and it's very homogeneous. It's boring as fuck. It's a blue planet, or it's a planet that's whatchamacallit, like arid, or it's a planet that is this, that, but it's not this. This planet is one of the few planets in the galaxies that has all of this incredible diversity of vegetation and animals and so forth. Your homework also is to read Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. That's your homework. Read Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. And then read the second book. And these are the only two books I recommend by him, because those are the best books. After that, his people got involved, and I'm sorry, the quality is not there. The second book is called Destiny of Souls. Just buy them both. Go on eBay, buy them. I'm sure you could buy probably two for $10, free shipping, right? So that's your homework. And then we'll go from there. So, well, no, it's not that I have. Thank you. I thank you, Tiny. I appreciate you. But I want to thank you all for being here. I will upload this on my YouTube. There's other, you'll see that I talk about the infrastructure and how it prevents divine couples from coming together and why it's done. And that might be interesting to you. And so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Also, there's a guided meditation called Satya Yuga, which I did with Andromeda Flame. Right now, we have been sold a bag of goods that we're going to be in Kali Yuga for another 45,000 years, or 450,000, depending who you talk to. I don't give a shit. The point is, time is not like that. It doesn't work like that. But Kali Yuga, in case you don't know, is blood and iron. It's what you're seeing right now. Satya Yuga is the golden age. You decide which age you want to live in. You decide what you're going to manifest. And if you decide nothing, then you will be, apathy will create your reality for you. It's that simple. Okay? Much love on your journey. I'll talk to you soon. Namaste. Be well.